He'll come in and he'll adjust the microphones if we need to.
Yeah. Oh, if you could, that'd be great. Thanks. He wants to come with you. Yes. He can.
I'm ready. Okay, here we go.
Cruiser. Come here. Come on, buddy. Come on, Cruiser.
Oh, it's not red. Okay. Good morning. I guess we are live. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You are watching KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. This is the Weekend Boost. I am your host, Paul Lane, author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. And for those of you who follow the show, know that I always put a plug in for Calma every week, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors. Soon we're going to be getting our anthology out. I got 2 poems in there. I'm pretty excited about that. And just stay tuned because we'll be getting some good news out. Also, there's a lot of things coming up in the week to come. One of them is a very important issue to me, and that is the global strike. The 21st of January to the 28th. Please stay home. Stay home. Keep your money. Do not shop at big box stores. Do not shop at big box restaurants. Shop at mom and pop shops because your voice needs to be heard. People are being murdered right now in the streets of Gaza. People are having their heads blown off. People who had nothing to do with the atrocities of October 7th. Babies are being murdered, literally. Please support this strike. January 21st, it's Monday. All of next week, I'm asking all of my friends to stay home. I'm asking all of my friends not to buy gas, not to buy food, not to buy groceries if you can, not to buy anything in a big box store. It's up to you what you do with that, but I personally feel that we got to stop this murdering genocide, and the United States is completely responsible for funding it. And with that, I will go ahead and move on. Guys, as you know, I like to bring on interesting guests, and I like to mix it up a little bit. And today, I'm really excited because my guest is not only a personal friend of mine, been a friend of mine for many years, but the dog that we're going to be talking about today is a very special dog, Cruiser. Actually, he had a book written about him, Cruise On. And Cruiser is an Australian cattle dog who lost his sight. And he had his eyes removed, and he didn't lose his spirit. You know, that's one of the exciting things I always talk about on the show is when people have a desire to accomplish, or people have a desire to succeed, or to gain, or to gather, or to collect, or whatever it is you intend to do. When you have the positive intention and when you have the right attitude, nothing can stop you. Cruiser is a dog that's overcome many challenges, and with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Susie, thank you for joining us today.
Paul, thank you for having us. I am so happy that we're here to share this story. It's a fascinating one, and please stick with me on this. Cruiser is a phenomenal dog, and he has been blessed in so many ways. So yes, I will start with this story. Back in January 2020, Cruiser was found at a landfill in Hobbs, New Mexico. And somebody found him, and when he was found, he had one eye was diagnosed with small eye, and that was a birth defect, and from what I'm told, he could not see out of that eye. In the other eye, he had glaucoma, and it was a very painful diagnosis for him, and he was taken to a rescue there called Amazing Grace in Hobbs, New Mexico. They then teamed up with Dog is My Co-Pilot, and for anybody who doesn't know what that is, Dog is My Co-Pilot is a nonprofit that flies animals from all over the United States to places that will take them and rehabilitate them and put them up for adoption.
So this is an actual organization.
So this is a nonprofit, right? They fly all over the United States. So Amazing Grace, Dog is My Co-Pilot, and Bounce Animal Rescue in Fort Collins, Colorado, teamed up, and they got Cruiser on a plane and flew him to Fort Collins. Bounce then picked him up and took him in to be evaluated. And sadly, the vet said his condition is painful and it's best that we remove his eyes. So mind you, let's back up. This is right when COVID started coming around. So in April of 2020, he went in for surgery, and he was rehabilitated with a foster. And shortly thereafter, this was April 2020, the shelters were becoming crowded, and this is when we saw on the news, you know, for whatever reason, everybody was giving up their dogs to go to these shelters. Well, we had decided that we wanted to adopt a dog again. We had lost our other two, and we ended up adopting Cruiser. So he's lived this phenomenal life with us. We go, you know, hiking, boating, paddle boarding.
Really?
And it's been amazing because this dog, after the surgery, just adapted to his blindness. And, you know, we've had a phenomenal time with him. He's just a great pet, and we couldn't be happier with our choice in adopting a dog with a disability.
Now, when you say he adapted to his blindness, what does that mean?
So it was just so cool to see when we brought him home. We could see that he could navigate the house without bumping into things. I mean, he would if we moved furniture, but it was just the neatest thing to see him navigate the house by either memory or, you know, the feeling. So yeah, he does a great job. But so yeah, living with us, it's just been phenomenal. But so to continue with his story, he it was 2 summers ago. He ended up getting what's called leptospirosis, and it's a deadly bacteria that animals, dogs, cats, can contract from wild animals that have possibly urinated in a pool of water. Well, we live out in the country up in northern Colorado, Colorado, and there are a bunch of fields around us, and we think he contracted it from some non-potable water that may have pooled up in the gutter or the backyard. We're not too sure. But yeah, he came in one day and he was just so sick, we could see something was wrong, had a high fever, throwing up, and we took him in to be assessed by the vet. Well, sadly, they said, your dog is very sick, he's going to be here a very long time, and this is going to be a costly procedure. So we gave our savings account. We thought, oh my gosh, this dog has overcome so much as it is, and we said we've got to do everything under the sun to keep him alive. So we went home and we prayed on it, and I was just trying to figure out everything possible to keep this dog alive. How am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I called my brother in California, Elk Grove, California, and he mentioned that he knew of a nonprofit called Paws for a Purpose in Elk Grove, Colorado, and they pay for emergency vet bills.
Really?
And I was just so floored. I thought, I've never heard of an organization that does this, but June and Arnie Levine do. They're just passionate about all animals.
Really?
And so I got in touch with June, and she agreed that yes, Cruiser has a good chance of living if we get him the appropriate treatment. So a week and $10,000 later, Cruiser came home from the hospital.
Really?
And he's recovered. And again, he's living a full life with us. Life does not stop in the Roberts household. We keep going and going and going. But here's where the story gets really fascinating and just blessings. So I was up in Frontier Days in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I came across this gal, Cowgirl Peg, and she writes children's books about animals
Wow.
who have overcome adversities and so forth. So I shared with her my story about Cruiser, and I said, Peg, would you be interested in writing another book? And she said, you know, this is my last go around. I just finished my last book. I've been doing this 20 plus years. And she really, you know, she wasn't thrilled to take on another book.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, but give me your information. When I get back to Texas after this show, maybe I'll give you a call.
Wow.
So I went home and I kind of pondered on it thinking, wow, wouldn't that be great if she wrote a book about Cruiser and his amazing journey? And so a couple weeks later, I get this phone call. And Peg calls me and she says, hi, Susie, I just got back from the Cheyenne Frontier Days. And yeah, let's talk about doing a book. She said, you know, I originally didn't really want to do this, but I have to share with you, my dad recently passed 6 months ago, and he asked me to write one more book. And my heart just, you know, sunk. I thought, oh my gosh.
And here it is.
And here it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So last March, Peg and I collaborated, and Cruise on Cruiser came about. So, but what's really neat about this is June had a fundraiser in Elk Grove, and we were invited to come on with her on Good Day Sacramento.
Oh yeah.
And we were able to talk about the book. So they did a little interview with us there, and that was great. So we got some publicity there.
Cool.
But when the book was finished, we went back out to Sacramento and did another segment on Good Day.
Wow.
And yeah, so Peg came out from Texas, we came out from Colorado, and June, of course, in Elk Grove, we all got together and were able to talk about the book.
Wow.
So that's how this came about.
It's an amazing thing when a person has a vision, how much can be accomplished, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I talk a lot about it, on the show, about vision and about goals. And I talk about, motivation, and I talk about, so many things that people need to have in their lives to overcome adversity, to face the challenges that we all face, because I don't know anybody who doesn't have challenges or doesn't have adversity, and it's funny how some people really face it differently than others, and the dog is no exception.
It's amazing because Cruiser is an example of how we can overcome our disabilities, if you will, our adversities. A dog is not taught how to be afraid of being visually challenged, if you will. And
there's no stigma in the dog world.
Yeah, there's no stigma. And it's interesting because we as people, we all have issues. I don't care what your quote unquote your disability or your challenges are. We get stopped in life when we have a challenge, and we're made to feel that we're either less than or imperfect or whatever. And it's been so neat to see how a dog can be so unstoppable. And if people would just learn to be more like animals, we could really accomplish a lot more.
You bet.
Yeah,
you bet.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's just incredible to think that this dog has influenced so many people in his lifetime, and it's just an awesome thing because people, we all are looking for some kind of an inspiration or hope, or we're all, and I shouldn't say all, but many of us, most of us are looking for I don't want to say answers to questions, but we're all looking for a way to improve our lives or to make our lives more livable.
Exactly. And and especially today with what's going on in our world and the ick that's out there, if you will, we're shutting down more and more and more.
We're becoming isolated.
That's exactly it. And especially with social media and whatnot. But that's another topic.
That's another show.
That's another show. But yes, we're becoming isolated, and we need to take a look at ourselves and really say, I can do this. I can overcome challenges in my life. And Cruiser is an example. And this is where Cowgirl Peg comes in, because all of her books talk about adversities and challenges and disabilities and so forth. And she really has done an excellent job on her writing and how she perceives disabilities. And I'd love to bring Cowgirl Peg in, if we could, on the conversation.
Absolutely. Would you, if you'd like to give her a call, we can put her on speakerphone here.
Yeah, absolutely. She would love to share more about what she's doing, with her writing and so forth. Peg, this is Susie. You are on the air.
I am on.
You are with Paul Lane.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. It's still morning. I'm in Texas, so I'm close to noon, but it's still morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm from Denver time. Good morning. Well, thank you so much for writing this book. It's really, we were just talking about what an inspiration it is, and how, books like this can really make an impact on human, on people's lives.
That book blessed me in a way that I never anticipated. I had 8 books already out. I've always used my horse. I've had horses my entire life. I've been a cowgirl my whole life. And I actually was living in Colorado when I wrote the first one. I was working with a rescue group in Denver and had taken in some rescue horses, and had the sheriff's department in southern Colorado knew that I did that, and had called and brought me a little horse that had a problem. He was ill, but he also was lame on one leg permanently. He was born that way, and that ended up. I had always been a writer, and always wanted to write meaningful books for kids. And all of a sudden, this little horse just stumbled into my life, and it was I knew immediately it was the perfect story about resilience and acceptance of differences. And that book took off immediately. I have a wonderful illustrator there in Colorado. She's in Canyon City. Her name is Pat Wiles. and her ability, her specialty is painting horses, and that's what I needed because I didn't want cartoon horses. And that story, just very simple, easy read story, but it teaches kids about friendship, about tolerance of differences, not to be a bully. Teaches kids, and goes on from there because the horse was literally pretty much drunk as a skunk on local weed when I got him.
Wow.
And he was intoxicated, we could say. And so I went from there with how he got out by himself, and he kept seeing this grass with his mother. He told him to never try, but he decided to try it, and then decided she was wrong because it made him feel good, and he ate a lot more of it, and then wished he did. And there is a sentence where he says, "I wish I had listened to my mother," and I've had parents stand up and cheer on that one. But so it's got a very simple story, but it teaches young kids to be a friend. Don't pick on someone for being different. So we use it in schools for anti-bullying and tolerance and inclusion programs, and then it also is a way to introduce drug awareness to kids as they get older, the importance of never trying things like that. So, and it's got a happy ending. He ended up with a new best friend. I kept him after the owner left him with me, and he ended up best friends with a goat that we put with him.
Wow.
And so it's got a happy ending. It's a happy book. All of my books are happy, and all of my books use my horses and dogs as characters, plus me as Cowgirl Peg, which I never expected to happen. When I wrote the first book, I just thought, what am I going to call myself? And I thought, well, I've always been a cowgirl. My name is Peggy, so I said Cowgirl Peg. And then I started speaking in schools, and kids figured out that was me. And I have to tell you, over the past 22 years, I have gotten thousands of letters of notes from kids to Cowgirl Peg. And that has made the whole thing really worth it.
Really?
At first, I started off, like everybody else who wants to be an author, they want to be a rich, famous author. But as soon as I saw the impact that book was having on kids, and then I had teachers ask me, say, do more like this, I felt called to do this, and just to help kids. And so I have been speaking in schools all over the country, including Hawaii, for 22 years, and I have never, ever charged a fee to a school, because that gives me the ability to get into schools that can't afford to have authors. We always work out something with grants or corporate sponsors or something to help cover my costs. And there were times I would sleep in my car in a truck stop, but when I got started. But this is what I felt called to do, was to get out there and help kids, maintain positive attitudes and make smart choices. And so that's where I've gone with the book. So one of them deals with dealing with peer pressure. One deals with believing in yourself. But Cruiser's book, when Susie came up to me at the rodeo and asked me if I'd like to do this, and I said, probably not, not rudely, but I just wasn't planning on writing another one. I thought I'm almost at retirement. I can enjoy just doing what I've done and have fun with them. And it's a big deal to write a new book, and it costs a lot of money to get it out. So I thought, I really want to. But when she told me, she said, can I share his story? And I said, sure. And so as I was listening, I thought, wow. And so I told her, let me get your information, like she said, and I'll think about it. But all the way home from Cheyenne, that's all I could think about. I even woke up in the middle of the night one night thinking of the incredible potential that this book would have if it's written correctly. And the only way that would work is to write it first person, that he had to tell the story, not me. So that meant I was going to have to write from a perspective of blindness, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do that and keep it feel good and never have it be negative at all. It had to be feel good, positive, resilient. And so I worked with the Texas Schools for the Blind, did research. I talked with them about how they teach kids about colors, how do they teach kids about various things that, like the sun and the moon, that they've never seen that we have. And so I wrote it. He tells the story. It's a very happy story, but it makes a reader of any age. And I'm selling this book to preschool all the way through grown-ups and grandparents, because they all just, in fact, the adults have been calling and said, it made me cry. And I said, well, it's not a sad book. They said, no, it's such a beautiful story. It made me have tears. And I said, that's good, because that's what I wanted. But I had to do it in such a way that when a child, especially maybe elementary kids, read it, all of a sudden they're going to realize that when somebody is blind, they have never seen the moon, they've never seen stars, they've never seen flowers. And so it really emphasizes how they instead use their four other senses as superpowers. So their hearing, their ability to smell and taste and touch things, that takes over as sight. And so that's what it really teaches kids who have never even really realized that that's what it would be like. So when I go into schools and talk with them in elementary schools, when we do Cruiser's book, I have them close their eyes for 10 seconds. And then I say, what do you see? And they say nothing. And I said, okay, that's what it's like when you're totally blind. And so I said, so instead, you know, they use these other, and we named them, and my daughter's a school teacher, said, use the word superpowers when you're talking about the other senses, which I did, which was perfect, and I'm glad she did that. So your superpowers take over and act as sight for you. So the blind schools now are using this book, and they're converting it to Braille. The school in Austin, I went to them with the final manuscript, hoping, and we sat there and they read it out loud, the administrators did, and I just sat there watching because I was hoping I had not done anything that was negative. And their smiles kept getting bigger and bigger, and I was thinking, okay, I think I did it. And when I realized it, and they gave it a stamp of approval, and I knew that it was done, I was just literally on cloud nine.
No kidding.
I have never experienced that with any of my other books. So I don't know if this was a gift from my father in heaven or not, but he asked me before he died to do one more. And then all of a sudden, this woman walks up to me out of the blue.
Wow.
And brings this incredible story into my life. So yes, it's an amazing venture, and Cruiser's book I just did a 5-week book tour in the Midwest. Actually, it was in Colorado a couple of times, and we did it was in Wyoming and Nebraska most of the time. Cruiser's book has jumped way up there. My others have always been very popular but when I presented Cruiser's book, and we got standing ovations every time.
Really?
Yeah. I would show a little video of him doing his fun stuff, and then present the book, and the kids were just up cheering in the stands and stuff at the end. So yes, he has made an impact, and is making an impact continually with this book. So I'm very proud of all my books, but that one somehow just has elicited a pride in me that I haven't felt before.
So there's definitely a sense of accomplishment there and a sense of reward, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yes. I was so happy I met Susie and Cruiser.
So let me ask you, what kind of things have you learned from, kind of a personal question, but what kind of things has Cruiser taught you personally?
Mostly the resilience. When I met him in Sacramento, and I had my dog Hitch with me, and they instantly became friends. And that night there was a reception in Sacramento that Paws with a Purpose held for their supporters, and it was a little fundraiser, and we had Peace Goodbye's book. It was a big room, and it was pretty crowded with people. And Susie and her husband Tom and Cruiser were on the other end of the room, and I had my dog Hitch, and we were on the far side of the room with the table and the books. And I was kind of just watching Cruiser, and they had turned him loose, and he was just kind of wandering through, but he knew that Hitch was somewhere in that building.
Wow.
And so I watched him. He was bumping into people and stuff, but he had his nose in the air, and within 5 minutes, he was standing beside my dog.
Really?
And he didn't let it bother him at all that he couldn't see him. He was going to find his dog. So it's just, he doesn't give up. He just goes for it.
Really? Very cool.
And that's what I try to relate to kids. There's always like Susie was saying, there's always things that go wrong. But you turn it into a positive. Learn from it. And one of my only chapter book teaches kids about some of my adventures, because I've been a very adventurous person with a lot of adventures in my life, and sometimes they go wrong. And instead of looking at it as a failure, you look at it as, okay, this is a life lesson. What did I do? What could I have done differently to keep this from going wrong? And don't look at it as a negative. It's a positive. It's a learning experience. And that's what I try to do. I'm such a Pollyanna. Sometimes people say to a fault, but I always find something good in when things are not going right. And I make sure I laugh every day. And then normally it's at myself, but, or my dogs. And my dogs are my best friends, or my horses. But and that going with that, animals are so incredible as far as partnership and keeping you, just always being there for you. A dog, and I can't have cats because I'm allergic to them, but I have barn cats. But my dogs are, they're like best friends. They're always there for me. They never get mad. They just love you. As long as you care for them, they're going to love you with great intensity. And I have all of my 3 dogs are rescues. And this is where I'm going to go with this a little bit, because Susie too knows the importance of animal rescue groups, and like June and Arnie Levine's group in Sacramento. What they do is just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That somebody would actually help pay for medical care for animals.
Yeah.
Just don't ever hear of that. But the rescue here near where I live is in West Texas. It's a town called Kerrville, and there's a group there called Kerr Pets Alive. And they work with the shelter, because the shelter there is small. It's not. They're finally building a new one. They don't have room for a lot of dogs, and you would not believe the number of stray dogs that are found in a small town. So they are constantly networking with people, local people on Facebook, plus nationally with all these other rescue groups. There's a huge network now of rescue groups. And they, the dog is my co-pilot that Susie was talking about. Those kind of groups, there's actually some big semis now that their job is to transport rescued animals to their new homes in various parts of the country. So
Wow.
It's a great thing that's going on, and it's something that people really, really should support, because there are a lot of animals out there that need help. So I'm a big supporter. I'm a big believer in it. But all of my dogs, I have a Great Dane mixed with a Catahoula. He was at the rodeo with me in Cheyenne every year. He's 5. I have another little one that's 5, and then this past spring, I wasn't planning on. I didn't need a 3rd dog in the house, but I love German Shepherds. I had one that was a star of one of my books, actually, and she had passed on, and so I now have this beautiful 1-year-old German Shepherd came into the shelter as a stray. And nobody ever came to get her, so guess who's living here? And she is probably the best German Shepherd I have ever owned. She's 1 year old, and she is so attached to me, and we are in love with each other. And I love all 3 of them, but man, she and I have a connection. And that's what rescue is all about. And I just really urge people to support your rescue groups.
I'm holding up your book as you speak, Peg.
Yes.
So they can kind of see which, the Jasmine.
Oh, the Jasmine book, yes.
So yes.
Incredible German Shepherd. She went to school with me about 5 years. We figured she kissed sometimes 3,000 kids a week. She would sit at the door and kiss the kids as they went out of the classrooms and stuff. So, she knew that was her job. She knew that was her job, was to go to schools with me. But of course, dogs unfortunately don't live to be as old as people do, and we always end up having to go through the loss. But my new one looks so much like her that when I saw her at the shelter, I instantly said, I'm going to have to name her Jazzy, because I know every time I look at her, I'm going to see my other dog. So her name is Jazzy, and she's an incredible dog. She is service dog quality. She's not the least bit aggressive for a German Shepherd. She loves everybody. And so I got an amazing dog out of that deal.
Very cool.
We'll be together for a long time, I hope. But yes, the books are available on my website, cowgirlpeg.com. My books are on Amazon just as ebooks, because I always donate to various charities and stuff as part of my sales, and I can't do that if somebody else is selling them for me. So I always sell off my website and in the schools and things like that, so that it allows some extra income off the, profit off the book, that I can do a small donations here and there. So, and I also give books away to low-income kids a lot. I've given away so many books. But
Very
it's really
good.
hard for me to see a kid, you know, I really, really want that book, but we don't have any money. Well, guess what? I'll find one that's a little bit damaged or something and try to make sure, you know, that I can help with that. And right now we've got a corporate sponsor in Nebraska that's looking at putting sets of the books in vegetable libraries there. So, you know, so I always tell kids, if you can't afford to buy one from me, I always make sure they're in your library so you can check it out and read it. So,
Very cool.
but that's what I do, and that has become my life. And I have loved being Cowgirl Peg has just turned into such a blessing. When I'm not doing book things, I'm just me. And sometimes somebody will say, well, are you Cowgirl Peg? And I go, oh, yes, I am.
Peg, why don't you talk about your nonprofit efforts?
Okay, Susie and I had talked about this, and other people had talked about with me about forming a nonprofit, not so much for animal rescue, but more so that I could actually give the grants to actually really work with more low-income schools than I can now. You know, I do it as close as I can for nothing, but I have to be able to make something
Sure.
when I do it. But I don't. It's just become much more for me about helping the kids. So we're going to file the papers soon to form a nonprofit and hopefully get grants to where I can go into low-income schools and possibly maybe give books to kids, you know, in these schools that can't afford one, and really talk more with them. I've done everything from lowest income schools to the richest of the rich privates. But I really like in the rural schools, especially because I'm a cowgirl in those rural schools, those kids relate to the ranching life, and that's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like that, and also I would have to have a board of directors, and would make sure I have some educators on there, including my daughter and my son-in-law, who are both in education,
Mm-hmm.
Because I see a lot of low-income schools they can't afford the audio visual stuff in their libraries, but the better, like the smart boards and those kind of things that can kind of tie them in with a lot of other resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would look to be able to fund maybe for some of those schools that can't afford some of that stuff to help them bring in more educational equipment like that. So that's that and getting some corporate sponsorships for a cruiser is on my wish list right now for this year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And can I add, Peg, I forgot to mention this as I was telling the story, that our family has, you know, agreed that all of Cruiser's royalties go back to the nonprofits who helped him. One important key point to
they are named in the story.
Yeah.
When Susie asked me to write it, she said I would like to make sure we recognize the 4 groups that helped with him.
Absolutely.
And I agree, because it's written, I mean, it is a non-fiction book, even though he's telling the story. It's all true.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made sense to actually name those groups and not just call them a rescue group. So it fit with the story to actually name them in the story.
Oh, I see. Very cool.
So that's where we are, and I have thoroughly enjoyed writing his book and getting to know Susie and Cruiser and Tom. It's been a big blessing for my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's Doug is my co-pilot.
Oh.
So I'm just going to show a picture of Cruiser in the cockpit with Doug as my co-pilot. There we go.
The art is amazing.
Yeah.
Spectacular. It really is.
Pat, we did full-page illustrations with the text on the left side, because Pat, when she read the story, the initial manuscript, she's done all my books, and they're so beautiful. But and she's a watercolor artist, which amazes me that she can do this. But she she said, man, this story is so great. She said, I'm going to knock myself out on this one, and she did. She really did.
That's Cowgirl Peg.
So,
That's Cowgirl Peg.
So he's going to show the picture of Cowgirl Peg.
Cowhead.
With the cow head.
That was
You know,
that
and
was the only page. I was like, I need to add a little bit of humor to the book.
right.
And I also need to make sure Cowgirl Peg is somewhere in the book, since the Cowgirl Peg's still in the book. And so I thought, literally, if you can't see something, you're going to think literally. And so a cowgirl is going to be possibly a girl that looks like a cow, or a combination of a cow and a girl. I mean, literally, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, so I thought, okay, I'm going to get a little silly with this and do this. So when I took it to the blind school, I was just waiting until they got to that page to see whether they grimaced or if they smiled, and they laughed. So then I thought, okay, thank God, this is okay. Because I didn't want it to be offensive at all. I wanted it to just be humorous and add a little humor to the book, but still, it's possible that that's, how you would perceive it if you heard the words cowgirl, that's a cow and a girl somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Peg, could you share a little bit about the book in how you got in your head and perceiving how he visualizes things, and how that was a challenge for you?
it was very challenging. This book was the most difficult of anything I have ever written, and it's probably the best. When I knew from the very beginning what the last sentence was going to be, and that was going to be, I'm going to cruise on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that was going to be the last sentence before I even knew what I was going to do with the book. And so I just built the story to that point. But I had to sometimes stop and just sit with my eyes closed for maybe 10 minutes and think, what am I hearing? What am I feeling? And things like that. Because, for instance, when he was outside, the first, in their backyard, I was okay, what's he going to smell? What's he going to feel? What's he going to touch? How's it going to be when he's walking through their house for the first time? He's going to bump into things, trying to find his way through. And so, the plane, I had to sit with my eyes shut. What am I, if I can't see when I'm on a plane, what am I going to hear and what am I going to feel? One of the things you're going to feel, and I got it into the book, is when you take off, you get pushed backwards, and when you land, you get pushed forwards by a force. And so I wanted, so I put that in there. He felt these things, but it was positive. It wasn't scaring him, but he was just describing, what he's hearing, what he's feeling. And so a lot of times I literally just had to sit and close my eyes for a little while and think through, okay, how would this be? And so it was, like I said, my biggest goal was to keep that book feel good all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
A happy, resilient story. And I will tell you that I was honored 4 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, to the Santa Fe, Texas schools that had that disastrous shooting, tragic shooting in May of, it's been about 4 years ago. And they asked me to come spend 5 days on their campus working with their kids on tolerance and differences and resilience and positive attitudes and stuff, which was such an honor for me. I do live now near Uvalde, Texas, and I know that I probably would have met some of those children because I do programs in their library quite a bit. So it's about an hour away. And I have an idea in my head right now because those children are still, there's such an impact on all the kids there from what happened 2 years ago. So I have an idea in my head that I'm hoping I can pull this off and do something really special there. But I'm not going to say that one is because it's just in formative stages. And it will be Cruiser because it's going to be all about resilience and finding your way and staying positive. So, which I think would really help there.
Peg, it almost sounds like you're ready to write another book.
writing a book about writing a book.
Not at this point.
We've got a lot of work ahead of us here.
I think Cruiser is my grand finale. I don't think I could top that book. I've told that to people many times. I just, when it comes to writing, I'm, like I said, I'm very proud of the others, but this one, it just took a special place in my heart, and it was so, it challenged me in a way that nothing has ever challenged me as far as writing. And it was, when I got done, I literally was on cloud nine. I couldn't believe I pulled it off.
Very cool.
There were so many blessings in so many ways with this book, Peg. I mean, the stars aligned. Definitely they aligned. And for so many reasons, I think nonprofit organizations that help rescues and like June and Arnie Levine with Pause for a Purpose in Sacramento. I mean, gosh, just, they're nonprofit, and the way they get funding is through folks like you.
Donations,
donations who give their heart and soul to animal rescue. And Cruiser's journey, he doesn't know it, but his purpose is to bring a message to overcoming adversity in life and being unstoppable, moving forward. And I mean, yeah, you're doing a phenomenal job, Cruiser.
I got to say that when you guys walked into the building this morning, and I went to go pet him, he got a big old smile on his face.
He does have a smile. If you hold this, I'll put Cruiser in the camera so people can see. Come here, Cruiser. Cruz, come here. Come here. I'm going to move out of the shop first.
I did a book signing this past summer.
Come here.
Somewhere in Wyoming. It was after the Cheyenne rodeo. We did sign a hall, and there was a rancher walking through. He had a blue heeler that was blind. And every step he would let out a little whistle because the dog was off leash. And so every step the guy would let out a little whistle out of his, from his mouth, and the dog just stayed glued to his leg everywhere they went. So it was really pretty cool.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see him, Peg, but we've got him in camera shot right. He's sitting here right in front of the microphone.
I turned off the video here.
Okay, I'm going to put him back down. He's probably a little nervous on that small chair. Come here, buddy.
Yeah, and most people would never think of even attempting something like adopting a dog with with a disability like that, and it's just such it's inspirational to know that you have, and it's really nice that you did, Susie.
The one thing I share, I hope this message gets across to anybody who might be considering adopting an animal with a disability. I would do it over in a heartbeat, especially a blind dog, because people don't realize what they can do. And I think that maybe someone, might think, oh, this is going to be extra work, or the dog won't be able to navigate around the house or with the family, but not so. I mean,
like you say, they have them superpowers.
Yeah, he's got superpowers, and if I ever come across the lottery, I would open up a rescue for dogs and cats with disabilities. Absolutely, in a heartbeat, because the connection with this dog, he relies on us, and we've had to learn how to tap dance our way around challenges, and it's interesting because I asked his foster before he came back home. I said, "Is there any verbal cues or anything I need to say, that he's learned in this short amount of time without his visual ability?" And she said, no, no. So when we brought him home, I noticed that I would start tapping. So if I say, come, I do a little tap, tap, and then he would come.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, his feel and his smell.
His cognitive resonance, ability to respond or understand.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just been amazing how quick he picked things up. So, yeah.
So, that is encouraging. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Peg.
When I was writing the book, that was one of the things I had to be real cautious of, was that I never used a word that indicated he could see. Because, when I got to there's one page where his life is now a routine, and so it tells, it's just bullet lists. He wakes up in the morning, they eat breakfast, they go outside, Tom goes to work, and just takes through the whole day. So at the evening, they all go, after dinner, they all go to the living room and at first I had where they watched television. I thought, wait a minute, he doesn't know what watching is, and he also doesn't know what to him, a television is a box that talks.
Yeah.
That's all he knows it is. So instead, they go to the living room and they listen to something called the television, and then the next bullet is when that box finally quits talking, we go to the bedroom and I know it's nighttime. So that, because I was trying to show how he doesn't know the difference between day and night. In the beginning of that page it says, being blind prevented me from knowing what night and day is.
Wow.
So it shows how he got this routine, so he kind of knew when it was nighttime and when it was daytime. So, but the television thing, I say, oops, I can't say watching television because he doesn't know what that is. So instead, it's a box that talks. So. Oh
yeah, that's definitely a stretch. I think that it definitely has to challenge your perception of life itself. Looking at it from a dog's perspective, a blind dog.
I never indicated he could even visualize. He can imagine something, but can't visualize something. So that was part of the challenge, was making sure I never went that where it indicated he had any ability to see. So it was like, I'd say it was an incredible challenge, but oh my gosh, what a blessing. So
no kidding.
Well, Peg, why don't you mention your website?
Yes, tell us where they can find your books.
CowgirlPeg.com. It's been doing this for 22 years, and Cruiser's book is very much highlighted on that website right now. We brought it really to the front when it came out.
So
we've got some good endorsements. The baseball player Nolan Ryan, who I've known since childhood, he and his wife Ruth wrote a nice endorsement. They have a Blue Healers that they really related to it. They've been supporters of my book since I started. So we've got some really nice endorsements now in that book, and it just keeps rolling.
Very cool.
They are available, and it goes through PayPal and for payments, and people can also Venmo if they want to. They just have to make sure they follow up with an email for me. But the contact information is on there.
So guys,
my school programs are, the details of all my credentials and school programs are on there too.
So guys, I implore you, go to cowgirlpeg.com, order a copy of this book and her other books. They're very easy, quick reads. Something that I think you could probably share with children and books of inspiration.
Yeah. Can I mention Cruiser's Instagram?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Cruiser has an Instagram for his followers, and we do post our journey with him, and that is the_amazing_cruiser, and it's CROOZER, the_amazing_cruiser at Instagram.
So go in there and check out his Instagram page. He's getting a popularity there.
He is.
I do have a Cowgirl Peg page, Facebook and Instagram. I will admit that I'm at the age where I'm not quite as into social media as my younger peers are, but I do occasionally put on there what I'm doing and some things about Cruiser especially. So, but yes, it is, we do, but it's not as active as Susie is with Cruiser.
Very cool. Well, guys, we're about down to the last minute of the show, and so
Okay.
we're going to have to say goodbye. But Peg, thank you so much for joining us today. Yes,
Great.
really appreciate you being here. And Susie, thank you much for joining us.
Thank you, Paul, for having us.
My slogan on the show is this: everybody's looking for a hero. If you can't find one, be one. And Cruiser is a hero, and Peg, you're a hero, and Susie, you guys are heroes. You and Tom,
Thank you.
and you make a difference in the world. And guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And stay tuned for good programming on KUHSdenver.com, the stream on Melody Drive. And you've been watching the Weekend Boost, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.